Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this presentation on Stockholm Convention National Reporting, and especially on how to report when it comes to NIPs. I will wait a couple of more minutes to see if more attendees will join us. A couple of more seconds, not too long, and then we will start. Okay. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all. I'm so happy that you could be with us today. My name is Lina Fortelius. I'm the coordinator of national reporting under the Stockholm Convention in the BRS Secretariat. And together with me today, I have my colleague Carla Valle Plan, who is gonna be presenting the part on national reporting and NIPs. I will do a shorter presentation on the general aspects of national reporting first. So for those of you, if you have attended any other of our sessions during this May and June, this will be very similar to what you have heard before. And once I finalize my part of the presentation, I will invite Carla to do a more in-depth presentation about national reportings and NIPs. And finally, after our presentations, we invite you all for a questions and answer session. You can already, during our presentations, put your questions or comments in the Q&A box. And once we finalize the presentations, you are invited to continue asking questions in the Q&A box and also raise your hand, and we will give you the floor. With that, I will start. So let's move into national reporting. We will first have a look at the need for national reporting, and then I will quickly go into the electronic reporting system and say a couple of words of the dashboard, where we can find the results of every party that has reported in previous reporting rounds. And the sixth report will also be added to that. And then finally, the last session for today will be about NIPs. So we have had other sessions on UPOPs and PCBs, which will be shared. The recording will be shared on our website in a couple of weeks, where you can find all the information on all the presentations that have been given and all the recordings. So that link is it's the same page where you could register for this webinar today. So let's start by looking at why we need to report. Article 15 of the Stockholm Convention, you see here on the screen, requires each party to report periodically to the Conference of the Parties on the measures it has taken to implement the provisions of the Convention and on the effectiveness of such measures in meeting the objectives of the Convention. So the second paragraph of Article 15 specifies certain information, including production, import, and export, or chemicals listed in Annexes A and B. However, the questions covered by the reporting format go far beyond these topics. So, as you will notice in the next slides. The convention has also decided that the reporting should be taken place every 4 years. So, and the deadline for the sixth report is upcoming 31st August 2026 this year. For submitting the reports, we have an electronic reporting system that is hosted on the Secretariat website. And it is very similar looking to the electronic reporting system for the Basel Convention, if any of you are familiar with that. To help you out, each new national report is pre-filled with the information from previous reporting cycle, so you don't have to re-enter data that has not changed in your country. And you will need to enter new data, and if previous data has been revised, for example, an inventory has been updated, and data from previous periods have been modified with more accurate values, or there are other corrections that needs to be made. And you will need to replace the existing data with the revised information in those cases. The reporting system is constantly maintained by the Secretariat and updated to reflect the changes to the convention. So for the sixth report, all the newly listed chemicals have been added, and also a couple of questions have been updated. And you find this information on the first page of the electronic reporting system, where all the changes to the reporting format is shown, are reflected. And two manuals have been developed to help parties in filling in the reports. One is for the use of the electronic reporting system itself, and the other one is assisting with how to fill in the contents in the report. And both manuals are found on our webpage, and the one on how to fill in the report has been updated for the sixth cycle, or the sixth report this year, so it should reflect all the most recent changes. So now I would want to look into why is reporting important. Reporting is an obligation under the Stockholm Convention, but in addition to that, it is also very useful for your country. So it is like a checklist to follow how your country is meeting its obligations under the convention, and also to identify gaps and priorities in implementation and help in updating the national implementation plan. Now, when the convention also has a compliance mechanism set up, the reporting will provide important input to that its work as well. National reporting also provides input to several assessments that are carried out under the convention to monitor its efficiency. These include the effectiveness evaluation every 6 years, and monitoring on the process of phase out of PCBs, as well as work on phase out of production and use of PFOS. So let's have a quick look into what kind of information is generally required in the reporting. So firstly, as the convention requires implementation of prohibitions for production, use, import, and export, you need to review your national legislation. So new legislation or other measures to manage POPs at different stages of their life cycle are relevant and requested in the format, the reporting format. And your national implementation plan, hopefully up to date, there are also questions to this, and this I will let Carla go into the details later today. And the same can be said for any release, emission, or waste inventories your country has produced since the previous time you reported to the convention. You will also need the most recent data on production, import, export, use, or disposal of all listed POPs. And there are also some very general requests for information related to various articles of the convention, such as information exchange, public information, awareness and education, research, development and monitoring, technical assistance, financial resources and mechanisms, or the effectiveness evaluation. Some of the needs for the report are qualitative and some are quantitative. And here is a summary of some of the numerical information that you should try to identify before you fill in the report. So there is the source inventories and release estimates for the 6 chemicals of groups of unintentionally produced POPs in Annex C. And this information may not be available for all groups, but you do the best that you can. Sometimes inventories are more detailed and sometimes it could be a more general estimates. Dioxin and furans are mostly giving the best the most important to report on. And production and use, import and export data on the intentionally produced chemicals in Annex A or B. This is also asked in the reporting format. And this information may be difficult to find sometimes, especially for chemicals that have not been produced in your country or that are not registered. For example, pesticides, usually they are registered in the country, but again, you do the best you can to find this information. PCB equipment, articles and materials in different concentration categories. So these data forms, the PCB inventory has a dedicated part in the reporting format. And also PCB waste managed in an environmentally sound manner is asked separately in the report. Information on production and use of PFOS is also requested based on the PFOS listing decision, part 3 of Annex B. And finally, the amount of POPs waste destroyed in your country, imported to or exported from your country. So the information that is needed for reporting will not be available in any single source usually, but the the official contact point and the national focal point will need to usually to consult several sources for the information. The main source is likely the National Implementation Plan, especially if it has been updated recently. But any other national inventories on uses, production, or emissions of POPs are useful as well if only available. And in case national inventories have not been prepared for a chemical, you can use the POPs inventory guidance documents that are on our website as well to figure out where the chemicals may have been used and then identify the sectors in your country who might have information on this chemical. Annual reports and statistics published by other ministries and agencies can also be useful. These could be, for example, pollutant registries, pesticide statistics, and other statistics. And similarly, any POPs related project reports by academia and other sectors may be useful for you. You could also consult industry surveys, especially on local use, availability of alternatives, etc. But yeah, sometimes they are difficult to get, and sometimes they are also confidential, so it may be harder to get that. And finally, it should be stressed that direct interviews with the experts, whether from like academia, industry, or trade, could be useful to understand what is going on in your country. So there is a lot to learn, and also for yourselves, and make sure to document this, maybe even in the comment section of the national report, to remember for next time where the information came from. And as you may know, reporting is very closely linked to the National Implementation Plan, and that's why this session is also a special session on reporting and the National Implementation Plan. And I just quickly mention that on one hand, the NIP is an important source of information, taking stock on what is available and what is missing. And reporting requires you to provide detailed information on restrictions, including legislative references, as well as data on available inventories. And filling in the reporting format is also a great way to get in touch with other authorities and experts in the country, as I mentioned before. And on the other hand, the reporting format and the process in filling in the report can be used as a checklist to identify missing or incomplete elements in the NIP and national implementation. So when something that is needed in the reporting is not available in your country, you can include that in the next NIP update as an action item. Excuse me. So let's go into the electronic reporting system and its functions just very briefly. You can find the link to the current reporting cycle on the convention's website under countries and then sub-item reporting and electronic reporting system. And to access the sixth report, there is an orange button saying click here where you can do the report. And please also note that on the left-hand side there is then a link to the guidance, which I was talking about earlier, and as well as the manual. And two accounts containing the username and passwords have been sent to the official contact point by the Secretariat by email in January this year. And the report can only be submitted from the OCP account. And the technical account can fill in the full questionnaire. So usually when the process works as it is intended, the Secretariat sends the two account details to the OCP of your country. The OCP share the technical account logging details with the technical person or persons filling in the questionnaire. And then once the questionnaire has been fully filled in and validated, the OCP is the one being able to send the report to the Secretariat. Just in case you use if you have forgotten your login details, you can use the account recovery functionality, but just bear in mind that this will send an email to the OCP email address that is registered in the Secretariat database. You can check this on the Secretariat website under country contacts. And if there is a new email, an email to be updated or an error, please contact the Secretariat immediately to get that changed so that this functionality work. And of course, this is only working for the OCPs. The NFPs need to reach out to OCPs to get the technical account details or to the Secretariat, but the Secretariat will then also reach out to the OCP to verify that we are allowed to share the technical account details with the NFPs. And after you have signed in, you can select the language of the report from the 6 UN languages. So now, just a couple of slides about filling in the questionnaire. So when you get started, please review and update the pre-filled data from previous reporting cycles. And also then include new legislation, updated inventories or other data, and data on the newly listed POPs. And ensure that the report reflect cumulative information since entry into force in your country. And indicate the year of measures taken or data collected. And if your country have never reported before, please complete the questionnaire in full. So since the convention were entering into force in your country. And when you open the reporting format, you will see that it includes the information from previous rounds, as I mentioned, and this is to help filling in the report. And for example, the bans and restrictions of old POPs may not need to be changed if they have been reported in earlier reports, and there has been no change since. Sometimes the legislative references may need to be changed, but the information can otherwise be kept the same. And each reporting cycle is also an opportunity for you to update previously provided information and, if necessary, correct previously reported data to create a single complete report. And here is an overview of how the system looks like when you enter. On the left-hand side, you can see the side toolbar where you can access all 24 different parts of the report. And please note that the reporting format is saying that there is 25 pages, as the first page is an introductory page for the report. Also the questionnaire is dynamic. So some questions offer multiple choices, and the user can select the most suitable answer out of a list of options, which may open additional questions. And for examples, if a question requires you to answer like here, yes or no, currently being developed or no, once you select your answer, there could be additional questions appearing. In case your answer is yes, you will be expected to give additional information on what has been done. And in case your answer is no, you may be requested to specify the reasons why nothing has been done. And the reporting format will then present the relevant sub-questions or parts for you to provide the additional details. And the system will also guide you at all times on how to fill in the questionnaire, and will warn you when it detects missing or incorrect data, forms of data, when clicking the check for errors button. And this is just an informational warning. It will not prevent you from moving to another page or submit your report. However, a few quality control measures were included in the reporting questionnaire to avoid basic mistakes at data entry. And once the information for the report has been compiled, reviewed, and the reporting format is satisfactorily filled in, the OCP can then submit it to the Secretariat. And there is also a possibility to add notes or supporting documentation, up to 5 different documents. And please note, as I said before, it's not the submission is not available for NFPs, so national focal points can only fill in, not submit. And the deadline, I just want to stress that the deadline is 31st August 2026. And so it's a very good time right now to start to collect all the information and talk to all the necessary people you need to talk to in your country to get access to all the needed information. So a few final words about filling in the report. The reporting format is long and has many questions and a lot of data needs. So it takes time to sit down and think what it is that the question is actually asking for. It's important to try to respond to all the questions, but even partial answers may help also for the process in the future. So no party has all the information requested, and sometimes you need to wait for future projects to start, but it's also important that you're clear with where the gaps are, and even a small piece of information may be a seed for further work. And please also use the commenting fields to add relevant background information and links. And if you feel that in one question you report one way, but then you feel that it's linked to another question where you reported a bit differently, you can use these commenting fields to explain why, for example, you said yes, but some chemicals are not included or whatever. I'm just making up made up scenarios. Take note of information you do not have. So make sure to raise those issues once your NIP will be updated. That's also gaps in reporting data make a great and well justified action item to seek funding. And then I will just quickly show you the reporting dashboard that the Secretariat hosts on its webpage. The Stockholm Convention reports dashboard can be used to visualize data from the submitted national reports. Of course, this is only the data of the submitted reports. And as I will just, my last slide, I will show you the statistics of how many parties have been reporting throughout the years. The dashboard is gives not a complete view of the all party situation in the world. And here you can see an overview of the dashboard and how to access the information given by parties on different questions. So there are some general level ready-made outputs under overviews, and then there is a direct access to each questions under part B, C, and D for if you scroll down on the left-hand side. So as I mentioned, and just to finalize, we of course hope the Secretariat is trying to help parties to report on time for the sixth report. These webinar sessions are one part of how we are trying to help you with that. As you can see, we have usually not reached much above 50% of parties that are parties to the convention that have the obligation to report under the convention. So we would, and especially not on time. So we would really hope that for the sixth report, please reach out to us now before the 31st August to make sure to report on time, as the information that you submit in this report is then feeding into many other processes that will take place during this autumn, and will also feed into what will be said during the next COP. So it's very, very important to report on time, to make sure that your information from your country is actually moved forward in the process. Because if you report, let's say 6 months or 9 months after the deadline, it is still useful, but the data will not feed into the processes it was meant to feed into, so that the PCB working group and all other chemicals group can make a useful and more telling story when they look at the national reports. So thank you. This was all from my side, and I will now give the floor over to my colleague Carla, who is the coordinator of national implementation plans in the Secretariat, and she will now go into more details on national implementation plans and national reporting. Thank you. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I recognize some names from the list of attendees, but not many. So I hope not only senior people here are attending these calls. I see some senior names here, and I thank you very much for joining us. But it would be great if people who are new to the job also come to these calls to understand a bit better this process, which take time to be understood and to be managed by your countries. So I will share a few slides here. We have a short period of time. So already in the beginning, I'm saying that if you have any question and if you want more information, just reach out to Lina or to myself. Because in a webinar like that, we cannot cover everything that we need to do. And maybe this is a lot of information also for those who are new into these fields. I will share my slides shortly. Lina, can you confirm that you can see it? Yeah?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so a quick overview on the linkages between two obligations under the Stockholm Convention. So Lina covered Article 15 obligation on national reporting, and I'll cover a little bit about Article 7 on national implementation plans, but trying to highlight to you the linkages between the two, but not in depth, otherwise we would need much more time for that. So Article 7, the so-called national implementation plans or implementation plans, require that each party to the convention to develop, implement, and periodically update the NIPs, the National Implementation Plan, to meet the obligations under the convention, and this document should then be transmitted to the Conference of the Parties through the Secretariat. Normally, these documents are available on the website of the convention, and I will also touch base on another tool that we have available for NIPs, which is still getting there. It's not fully, in my opinion, fully good in all senses, but it's an attempt to improve also the submission of NIPs in a more structured way. So what triggers the development and then, of course, the update of the NIPs is the listing of new chemicals. And as we have been seeing over 20 years, different chemicals have been listed in Annexes A, B, or C, N or C of the convention. And every time there is a new chemical listed in one of the annexes or in the multiple accesses, parties are supposed then to review and update their national implementation plans to see how they will actually take into account those new chemicals in their national strategies, in their monitoring and enforcement, etc. When developing NIPs for the first time, but also when you update them, you have a lot of other documents that may help you in this process. I'm just listing some of them here on the screen, but I'm happy to put in a document and maybe share with Lina to be shared with the attendees, specific links to different documents so that you can easily find them on our website. So we have several guidance documents, but also some COP decisions that are indicating how this work should be done. In a very simplified screen, you can see here some suggested phases where a NIP should be developed and or updated. And it normally, this kind of activity requires several months, if not years of work at the national level. It's managed by the parties, not by the Secretariat. Normally, the official contact points, the OCPs, and the national focal points, the NFPs, should be involved in these processes. I know that some countries work with the NFPs, others work with OCPs, but in general, we expect that a group of people will be working on this activity since this is a complex exercise, which requires collaboration at the national level. So as phase one, we suggest that a country then establishes a national coordination mechanism and process on how to collect the data and which stakeholders will be involved in this process. As phase two, a possibility is to establish POPs inventories and assess your national infrastructure and capacity to either monitor those, to prohibit those, and or to control those depending on the POP and on the use, production, and prohibitions that you have available in your country. Then you have to, in phase three, assess the priorities and set your own objectives. This is a very important step in this process. And based on what I have been learning, I'm kind of new to the job. My colleague Suman used to do these activities in the past, and I took over from him recently after his retirement. And one of the things we are trying to understand is what are the gaps that countries are having. And it seems that phase three is a critical phase in NIPS development and updates, as this definition of priority gives space for interpretation. And sometimes we are seeing that colleagues doing NIPS and NIPS update treat all the POPs in the same way, and therefore the exercise, of course, becomes much more complicated. So assessing the priority according to the POPs available in your country and which ones you want to tackle and which ones you can tackle is a very important phase of the NIP update or development for a few countries. Then you would formulate the NIP. The NIP is a document. It varies a lot. If you look at the website of the convention, you will see very short NIPs and very long NIPs. Some countries decide that every NIP that they submit should tell the full story so that the document is self-sufficient, while others just want to do an update of the previous version of the NIP. So we have variations of that. And these are all fine for the time being, at least. And finally, when this document is developed and concluded, you should have the endorsement of those authorities that need to be involved in this process, and then submit the NIP to the Secretariat formally. Here, just to highlight a little bit, so in phase 1, for example, in terms of the establishment of a national coordinating mechanism process, we have, again, several documents that may help you in the understanding of what you want to evaluate, what you need to evaluate in relation to sources of POPs, use of POPs, production of POPs, stockpiles and wastes. And I list here only a few of these documents which are available on the website that for those who are new to this job may help you understand. For example, there are fact sheets giving a highlight on each of the POPs listed under the convention, which kind of applications they have been used so far, at least. You can also see the risk profiles and risk management evaluations from the POP ROG, from the review committee, which may give you some hints also. And then we have also not only the technical part, but also the legal part. We have several documents in the area of legislation that are needed and should be either developed in your country or updated so that you can really properly implement the Stockholm Conventions. Here on the slide, I'm saying available for all the 3 conventions, Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm. But this webinar, we are focusing on Stockholm. On phase 2, we have the idea of establishing the POPs inventories, and it seems that many countries have been focusing their NIPS updates on this activity, which is something that we, the Secretariat, and also colleagues involved in NIP development and update have been discussing. What's the best approach to do this? We have been using a certain approach. The guidance documents available to support you in doing your NIP updates have specific approaches. Some colleagues are happy with that approach. Others are questioning whether there is another way to do it, which should be better, perhaps focus on sectors instead of on POPs. I think we still don't have a full answer to that, and I would be very happy to hear your views on that as well. Additionally, we have other kinds of document that can help you in the inventories, of course, but also on alternatives to the POPs, also the work on the BAT and BAP, and also toolkits and so on. So there are many resources available on the convention website, and if you don't find them easily, reach out, please. All of these can be easily read by those involved in the convention, of course. You need some level of understanding of the Stockholm Convention. And perhaps you can also divide the tasks. I suppose that not one person would have to read all of this. So it will depend on the consultants available or expertise available in your country that you could focus on one or another to get the best out of them. All of these, as I said, are available on the website under the National Implementation Plan part of the website, which is under the menu Implementation. And you have there, as I said, different types of guidance documents available. We also have one which is not listed here, but it's a bullet point in this slide, which is the group of technical guidelines on POPs waste developed under the Basel Convention. This is a very strong collaboration between the 2 conventions, and those technical guidelines aim at helping you parties at the phase when you are dealing with the waste management life cycle approach. And the discussion between the 2 conventions is exactly to see how best countries should be managing waste, which are consisting of contaminated or so with POPs. So I also invite you to check on the Basel Convention website, and if you don't find them, please reach out. Here I have 2 slides to highlight some things which seems to be very difficult for most of parties, which is how you would identify POPs, and that's part of the NIPs development and so on. And then eventually, when you collect the data, you are going to include the information and the data in your NIPs, but also in your reports under Article 15. So I think one of these difficulties we have, especially with industrial chemicals, which is slightly different for pesticides, is because they really are involved and used in complex supply chain that may include many producers and users. So when you are trying to understand where are these POPs available in your country, where are they used, if they are produced, etc., you may be dealing with a very large group of industries and sectors, depending on the industrial chemical that we are talking about. And again, here, maybe you need to prioritize. Maybe some of them are stronger and have a bigger role in your country than in other areas of use and or. For some of you, you may not even produce those, you are just importing those or have imported those. So it's again a different scenario for each of you. Also, as another observation on this field, we have also industrial chemicals that are used in numerous processes and parts of products. So not only the chemical itself as a substance, or the groups of chemicals as substances, but they are embedded in different parts of different products. Like, for example, here on the screen, we see machinery such as laptops or computers in general, electronics in general, but also medical devices. And therefore, when you are trying to cover, you may need to be aware of all of those uses and so on. So in terms of another line of work supplementing this, there is more recent work also from the pop rock and from parties under the convention to try to improve the understanding about products and articles, stockpiles and waste. As I already mentioned, there is the initiative under Basel, but also here under the Stockholm Convention, we have different work being done to try to help you identify and see the difficulties that you have in identifying these POPs in products and articles and so on. So I invite you to also have a look at these kind of documents that are available on the website. And now on the linkages, so I just gave a very quick overview of some aspects of the NIP. As I said in the beginning, we cannot go very deep here. That's also not the purpose of this webinar. But we would like to highlight that there is a strong link between the two obligations under the convention, Article 7 and 15, and that when you are developing one, you may be reusing data and information from the other and vice versa. So we observed that about 90% of the data required under the reporting obligation is also covered under the NIP update processes, which means that when you receive funds, for example, if you are a developing country and receive funds to do your NIPs, or if you are not a developing country, but you're getting organized to do your NIPs, you should also consider that part of this data should be used by the team, if it's not the same team, responsible for national reporting. And as Secretariat, again, we have been observing that that's not really happening all the time. Therefore, we are highlighting this for you. So there is quantitative information, there is qualitative information, and we really invite you to try to do more use of this. So we have overlaps between the two to a large extent, and we would like to emphasize this need and of you reusing the data and the information collected in one process into another. We know that there are gaps in terms of data collection, etc. Also, not all things are correlated immediately. So the NIP tends to be more granular in comparison to national reporting. But if you have granular information, you can aggregate the data and then report. Maybe you don't have immediately the other way around, but a lot of qualitative information also from reporting, if that happens in a different time of your latest NIPS update, can be fed into the NIP to help that team, if it's not the same, to do the NIP properly. We still see space for improvement, and I think, as Lina mentioned in her presentation, in the work of the compliance committee now, I think we will be seeing more analysis of what could be reused and improved in both, so that we can really make your lives easier and your lives will help you better implementing the convention. Here are some comparisons, just as a highlight again. For example, NIPs versus reporting. We have limited levels of details on PCBs in the NIPs versus what's required under the reporting obligation. Then we have lack of information on PFOS in the NIPs versus some of the information that's requested under reporting, and so on. So PBDs, again, you have maybe more information in the NIP than what's asked in the reporting. So there are not 100% matches on every detail, but still most of it can be used in both. So what we would like to highlight here is that, when a party is implementing these obligations under the convention, that we invite you to have a more integrative approach and try to streamline and harmonize as much as possible between these obligations, because that will be helpful for you, but also for all the evaluations under the convention. So when we did the effectiveness evaluation, we saw different gaps in terms of data, missing information, mismatching information. That has to do with what I said before. Could be because of the timing of each of these exercises, but also because maybe two teams are working and not talking to each other at the national level, and also because the two requests are a bit different in nature. But we see a lot of opportunities here, and it would be great if you could also highlight to us some of your observations on this field so that we can improve on our side as well. The submissions also are a bit different between the two. No? So the NIP, as I said in the beginning, is triggered. The NIP update is triggered by a listing of a POP, while the reporting obligation is already fixed every 4 years. So therefore is a more regular exercise sometimes if parties are not having the means to do the NIPs as frequent as the NIPs updates as frequently as they are supposed to be done, which is the case as well. Based on our work in the Secretariat and also talking to Jeff colleagues, and working in the Secretariat here is through the evaluations done under the convention, we observed some gaps that I have been highlighting in my presentation. And one of the things we observed is that because of the lack of structure of the NIP, maybe one of the problems that we could solve through the use of technology would be to create a tool for you to organize the information for the NIP and eventually submit it online. I know that this is not a consensus under the convention. Some countries are more interested in this approach, others are less interested in this approach. There are pros and cons, of course, of each approach, meaning an approach which is completely unstructured and free, that people can just write narratives, in comparison to using a tool to organize the data. But we developed it, and the COP endorsed it, and we are trying to promote it and also trying to fundraise to improve the tool so that it becomes more user-friendly. The tool is available on the convention website, is the NIP electronic toolkit, which is organized by different areas. You have areas of it where you can put your narrative, like the one presented here on the screen. So you have space to put free text, but you also have a lot of structure for the quantitative data. And we vision-wise, if we would imagine that most of the countries which are parties to the convention would use such an approach, we would have much easier ways to analyze the data and see whether we are moving into the right direction according to what the objectives of the convention are, or where we see space for improvement. Nowadays, as Secretariat, every time we have to look into data submitted through the NIPs, we have to open PDF files and search for the information. Of course, with AI may now change the game again. We can try that, and we will definitely try that, but we observed a lot of problems in doing that kind of data analysis when data is embedded in text and unstructured. So the tool is trying to improve some of these elements. I stop here, and I'm happy to help you further. You have my email. Some of you already know me, and if you don't, please take note of my email and reach out anytime that you need help. Thank you very much. Back to you, Lina.
Thank you so much, Carla. I hope that was really interesting and helpful of getting a bit of an overview of the linkages between national reporting and the NIPs. I now open the floor for any questions. I can see that during our presentations, there were no questions in the Q&A box, but please feel free to, now I give a couple of minutes to write your questions there, or raise your hand, and we will take your questions here directly. So I wait a couple of minutes to see if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, we will close this meeting. So I have a first question saying, could you please clarify whether the deadlines for national reporting, PCBs, NIPs, are all aligned for 31st August? So I can start, and maybe Carla, if anything, you can chip in. But so the deadline 31st August is for the Stockholm Convention national report, which includes the questions on NIPs, on PCBs, and DDT, on all the POPs, like of almost all articles under the convention. So that is, but it's only the deadline for the national report. Then there are other processes in the Secretariat, internal processes related to PCBs, NIPs, DDT that have separate deadlines. But for the national report, that you access through the electronic reporting system, the deadline is the 31st August.
So for the NIPs, shall I
Yes,
complement?
please. Yeah.
So the NIPs don't have the NIPs update. So first of all, there is the first NIP of every party, every country that becomes a party to the convention. And the statistics are good for the first NIP. So most of you have already submitted your first NIP. There are only a few outstanding situations, and we are following up on that. Then you have the NIP updates that are supposed to be done every time a POP is listed. So the timing varies. It's not like a regular thing like reporting, which has this fixed cycle of every 4 years. And also it depends on the party. Some parties are automatically bound to chemicals listed under the annexes of the convention, and other parties are not. So it depends on which kind of situation the party is. So we would need to know more, and I would invite you, if you have questions, to write to me directly with your specific questions, because it may apply. And even countries that may choose to be bound by certain chemicals listed under the annexes, they may, let's say a COP lists 3 chemicals, but the country that is a country that is not automatically bound to this amendments to the convention, they may choose to perhaps accept one of them only and not 2 of them. So your next NIP will cover perhaps 1 NIP only and not 3 or 5, depends on the situation. So it varies a lot, and it depends also on the resources available for your country. Some countries have more resources or access to resources, so they have been doing more regular updates. Every 2 years, not, but every now and then, while other countries are having really difficulty, it seems, in accessing these resources, and therefore takes longer.
Thank you,
sorry,
Carla.
not a straightforward answer.
I have another question. Several guidance documents related to NIP updates have been updated during the most recent GEF project. Why do they not appear on the convention website? Do they need to wait for the COP to be endorsed? Because all 43 guidance materials are now on Green Growth Knowledge Platform and not necessarily on the website. So this is a very technical question. I don't know, Carla, do you have
we can
an answer
try.
on that?
I will thank you, Katka. I think that's a very good point. I will follow up on that. And I was going to actually say, I'm not sure if Kay, who is looking into this guidance, is waiting for the COP to be endorsed when actually colleagues already published them somewhere else. So there are different guidance. I think Katka is making a point. I'll get back to you offline, Katka, on that. But I also wanted to highlight what Katka just said. Actually, there are not only available guidance documents on the website of the convention, and perhaps, Lina, we could do that. Create a little page or a little Word file with the link so that people can really have access to all these resources, and plug that to my presentation or to the email we are going to send after the webinar. Because there is the guidance documents on the website. We have, I wanted to highlight them, electronic courses for those who are new to the convention and to this process, available on Informia platform. The links are also available on the convention website. There is a course on the Stockholm Convention, course on the NIPs itself, and another course linking the three conventions, the B, R, and the S, to the SDGs. All of them will contain information which may be helpful to those new to the game. We have the ENIP toolkit. We have documents under the UNEP, Chemicals and Health Waste branch, which also be helpful. And we have this great work done under the Green Growth Knowledge Platform on NIPS. So there are a lot. Webinars, guidance documents, and modules, and so on that really can help you. But anyhow, just to answer shortly, I'll get back to you, Katka, on that.
Thank you, Carla. And just to complement, yes, the Secretariat website has a lot of information, but it's not necessarily always found on the same place, and it can sometimes create a bit confusion. So we will see what we can do together with Carla to make sure that if there could be some kind of page where you have them more together, the ones related to National Report and NIP. And also, for example, this webinar will also be posted, the recording of this webinar will also be posted on our website, and there are many other webinars on different topics related to this topic that has been given during the years. Of course, this is the most recent one, but there can also be older ones that can be useful. I see a follow-up question. Another question on NIPS submission. The new electronic format for NIPS submission is a way forward to work with information and move towards more quantitative data to establish trends, etc. But what we are facing now is the difference in national legal system that requires a procedure of a NIP endorsement in the national legal system, and they do not match. Can countries also upload the format, append to it as file into the system as well, while also trying to extract the information from inventories and other technical reports? Good question.
Okay. I think we have a problem here, Katka, but we can try. I think perhaps instead of putting it through the system in this case, you could use the system to organize your data, but then do your submission or the submission of this country that has this national legal system requirement through the normal channel via email, as you have been doing. So use the tool as a tool to organize the information and the data, because the tool may be helpful for that purpose, but then the submission, since it requires other levels, maybe we treat it differently. We are still in this hybrid mode now, which I don't have the answers yet. We have some NIPs developed and uploaded to the website. By the way, we are going to revise the website. We see problems on the web pages related to the NIPs on the submissions part. And then we have some which are using the tool, and we have to kind of aggregate the two in a one way. We are not there yet. But for now, that would be my answer. But happy to talk to you separately, Katka. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Carla. I have no further questions. I think that we have exhausted the Q&A session for today. We are also exactly 11 o'clock in Geneva time. So I thank you very much for your participation today. Thank you, Carla, for joining me. And please reach out to me and Carla or to any other relevant colleague to us in the Secretariat. If you have any questions, we are happy to try to assist you and help you. Thank you so much. I'm wishing you a good day, good evening, good afternoon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.